Tonight, I'm going to take you through a journey that'll either make you so mad you shut off your TV, or it makes you actually listen to try and figure this out if you're resilient enough. But recently, I've been hearing a lot about interest rates, how they're going down more and more. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's great. Interest rates are going down. Until I started asking the hard-hitting questions to some of my peers. I realized it's just way more complicated than that. See, in high school, they never taught me about interest rates, and I didn't feel like paying $40,000 in university to learn about them. So tonight, I'm going to make it easy on you. I'm going to try and have two people, and Sasan here virtually, to explain what interest rates are, how they affect us, how they affect our daily lives, and most importantly, what we need to know about them to benefit in some way. So guys, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. It's been a little while. Vince, Anthony, Sasan, pleasure. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
So Vince, I want to throw this question to you because you're a mortgage broker, and I hope you understand this. If you don't, then I'd be fearful of your job. But let me ask you this question. 2 years during COVID, we had interest rates sitting at 2.5%, roughly, around there.
Yeah.
Why? In what world does a rate that low make sense? I'm trying to understand that.
I mean, we're paying for it now, so I don't know that it necessarily did make sense at that time. I mean, but
at the time, why did we need it?
Well, we needed to make it cheaper for everyone to borrow, basically, because we needed to flood the market with money and make things easier for people.
Right.
And so, therefore, we needed to make it cheap. That's it. That's really what it came down to.
Anthony, would you say that was the right decision in hindsight?
I mean, everybody's a Monday morning quarterback with pandemic. So just on his point.
But it's we have to differentiate too, though, because it wasn't technically really the government that made that decision. It was the Bank of Canada that made the decision to keep rates that low.
So because when the Bank of Canada realizes when the government is going to shut down the entire economy, follow suit with the rest of the world, they're going to be needing to borrow billions. And I'm not talking like 1, 2, or 3 billion. I'm talking $400 billion. They're going to borrow that money. They're going to put some big programs together, financial relief for families, working families, businesses, etc. And they're going to want to borrow that money at historically low interest rates.
Right. So, Sasan, I want to throw it over to you here. The idea of interest rates, most of my generation wants to know, like why do we even have an interest rate? I know they were acted in I think it was 1935, 2 years after the gold standard was dropped. But I want to know today, why do we need interest rates?
So you can basically think of like interest rates as the price of money. So if you lend money to somebody, you obviously want to be compensated for it. So you're not going to give the money out for free unless you really love that person. But in general, you want to be compensated, and vice versa as well. So if you borrow money from someone, you don't expect to get it for free as well. You have to pay something. So that payment we can consider it as an interest rate payment. And at the national level, Bank of Canada uses that interest rate to, for example, manage inflation, control inflation.
So I was just wondering this, like, why is it that the Bank of Canada has control over the interest rate versus each individual bank or like that just doesn't necessarily make sense. I know you probably have a sample explanation for it, but
regulations. That's the easiest word.
Some correlation of 2008 and the 90s?
No, this was way before that. Way before that. I think a lot of what came out of the financial calamity of the 1930s, the Depression era, I think that set a lot of the standards and rules and regulations in our country. The recession of 2008 and 9, that was my first exposure to bad economic times, right, from what I can remember. And a lot of the rules that were really put in place were done in the U.S., not so much in Canada. We had ground rules. We had a secure banking system. The U.S. was running willy-nilly, and look at the trouble it got the world into.
It is cool to know. I am proud to say that Canada actually withstood 2008 decently well compared to the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think when you think about interest rates and what's happened in the economy and why they're doing this is they're centralizing or using a centralized bank to keep things in check and make sure that everyone is essentially, working together.
So the Bank of Canada makes that decision on interest rates. Sasan, we have about 15, 20 seconds here. I wanted to ask you, like, instead of staying the same, these interest rates fluctuate. Why? Could you give me a quick example?
So the real answer is like the economic environment is always shifting. So it's not the same economy every day, every month. Maybe the labor market is getting stronger. The economic growth is getting higher and higher. So in order for the Bank of Canada to control inflation, they use that interest rate. And depending on what factor, for example, if the labor market is too hot, then it could have inflationary
Wonderful.
pressures. Yeah.
Thank you, Sasan. I appreciate that. We'll be right back.